Senator Ron Johnson, what do Democrats want? Power. Absolutely. That's what they want above all. They will do anything to acquire and maintain power. The damage they've inflicted on our democracy is something Russia and China could only dream of achieving. Yeah, because they're weaponizing the First Amendment.
What do you think they were after?
One word answer, power. Democrats will do
That's
anything
Number
to
one.
acquire and maintain power. That's what this is all about.
Yep.
Yes, it's a fishing expedition.
They're a bunch of communists.
Eric's the expert in terms of what crimes might be prosecuted. The damage that people like Comey, Brennan, Clapper, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Thibault, the damage they've done to our democracy, starting with the exoneration memo of Hillary Clinton through Crossfire Hurricane, the Russian hoax, up to this moment. Russia and China, they could only dream of interfering in our elections to that standpoint. You know, I was targeted earlier with Senator Grassley with the unsolicited briefing in August of 2020 to, run us off the tracks of the Hunter Biden investigation. Then they leaked that to the media, smearing me during my reelection campaign. So again, this is time and time and time again, orders of magnitude worse than anything they're falsely accusing Trump of doing.
Yeah, and it just goes on. And they had power in the last 4 years, and God knows what they wielded with it. I mean, we know that they've done quite a lot of damage to the country. And even though that they're not in the majority of Congress and they're not in the Oval Office, doesn't mean that they're not capable of inflicting shitloads of damage. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, it just seems imminent that next time Democrats get into power, I can only imagine what the hell could end up happening. I don't know. Maybe on a day-to-day basis, yeah, we might still go to work every day. Kids might still go to school and things like that. But on the other hand, I really don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening. Nothing good. I think we can all pretty much guarantee that. Anyway, One American News, FBI Director Kash Patel announces the firing of several agents who monitored the communications of GOP senators. So this was the other day when that was announced, the 8 senators, actually it was announced yesterday if I'm not mistaken, that 8 senators were spied on by the Democrats, and Kash Patel blew it wide open. So let's hear
FBI Director
what they say here.
Kash Patel announces the firing of several agents who monitored the communications of GOP senators. In a post on X today, Patel said the dismissed agents weaponized law enforcement against the American people and revealed a probe into the matter has been opened. He also announced the dismantling of the CR-15 squad, a public corruption unit in the D.C. field office, which aided former special counsel Jack Smith's anti-Trump probe. The FBI's tracking of 8 GOP senators was part of its Arctic Frost probe, which Smith took over after being appointed. Attorney General Pam Bondi condemned the investigation while testifying on Capitol Hill.
Operation Arctic Frost was an unconstitutional, undemocratic abuse of power. During Arctic Frost, the FBI also placed 92 linked Republican individuals and Republican groups, such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, on their list.
92.
This is the kind of conduct that shattered the American people's faith in our government.
That's just one of a million
Bondi
things
went
they've been
on
doing,
to
though,
point
man.
out under President Trump's watch, the FBI is targeting violent criminals and other lawbreakers, not sitting senators.
It just goes on and on and on what they've been engaged with. And again, we still haven't seen really any indictments of anybody except for James Comey. That's it. And at this rate, it's going to take a year before we get, half a dozen indictments? Sounds like hundreds of people should be getting indicted for, not just for that, but for everything we've been dealing with for the last fucking decade or more. Anyway, Liz Elkind, another hallway confrontation between House lawmakers, Mike Lawler demanding Hakeem Jeffries sign onto a bipartisan bill temporarily extending enhanced ACA credits. You're embarrassing yourself, Jeffries kept repeating.
Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign?
All right, here, I'll turn it up.
You can easily extend
the
the ACA
Did your
right
boss,
now.
Donald Trump,
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
I think
down?
he's all of our
No,
boss, right?
Let me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could
Dude, clean your
sign
camera
on.
lens,
You're
man.
embarrassing
You
yourself
could
right
sign
now.
on to this. The only
You're
embarrassment
chasing
here is
clout.
you.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me
Why
ask you a
won't you
question.
sign on
Let me ask
to
you a
it?
question.
It's a clean.
Oh my God, this goes on for 4 minutes.
You voted for the one thing that we vote, correct?
I voted for a
The
tax cut
largest-
bill that gave the
the
largest
largest
tax
cut-
cut
The
to
largest-
Americans in history,
the
including, by
largest-
the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing
Do you want
yourself right
to
now.
cut the standard deduction in
The
half? Is that
largest
what you
cut
wanted
to
to do?
Medicaid in
No, we
American
voted
history.
out
You voted
waste,
for that.
fraud, and abuse, by the
You
way.
voted
Tom DiNapoli, the
for a
Democratic
permanent-
controller
That
of
is
New
correct.
Let me
York,
ask you a question.
pointed out that $1.2 billion
if you're
were
gonna-
wasted.
Yeah, that's why they cut a lot of Medicaid, because they discovered a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. I believe it was partially, if not mostly, through Doge, where they found tons of fraud, waste, and abuse. A lot of people were receiving benefits that otherwise wouldn't have qualified for it. They just gave people apparently just blanket benefits, and if they actually went through the proper application process, they would have never been entitled to them. So they're being taken off of it. But Democrats are saying that X amount of millions of people are losing their benefits, and they keep changing the numbers. I don't know if it's on the list. I think it's on my list that I'm going to get to in a little bit. But one of the Democrats said 13 million people are going to lose their benefits. I hear other numbers like 25 million. I've heard 10 million. I've heard 15 million. They don't even have a solid number. Of course, they don't ever show any sources. The Democrats don't. They never show any sources when it comes to this shit.
Listen, you're not gonna talk to
Wasted
me. You're not
on
gonna talk to me
fraud
and talk
and
over
non-New
me
York residents
because you don't
getting
want to
paid.
hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why
Go
don't you
ahead.
just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you
is
showed
that-
up.
is that the way to
you
talk?
You showed up.
Yeah.
And so you voted for this one
I
big
signed
ugly
on
bill.
for this. You can extend it
A
right now.
permanent extension of massive tax breaks for your billionaire donors.
So 90% of Americans.
There goes that talking point again. The billionaires are getting tax breaks.
Is that right?
90% of Americans take the standard deduction.
Is that
right?
right?
If you had
Again,
your
they
way,
never
the
point to
standard
anything
deduction
with
would
regard to
be
this
cut.
billionaire
There would be
bullshit.
a massive tax increase
No one-
on Americans all across the country.
You're
You support
here,
that?
unfortunately.
You're
to
against
do
lifting the cap on
bidding
salt?
Of your billionaire donors.
The
That's
billionaire
unfortunate.
donors lifting the
That's
cap on
correct.
salt. We put a.
Oh, there's a lot of
income
Democrat
tax.
billionaire
Why are you
donors
here
too.
right now?
An income
Where the
tax.
re- where
Well,
the rest
didn't
of
you
your
want all
Republican
Republicans
colleagues?
to be here?
Where
I'm
the
here.
rest, where the rest of your
You
Republican
wanted
colleagues?
Republicans to be here. I'm here.
Why are you
And by
here?
the way,
What?
you can
What?
pass an ACA extension right now. Sign
your
on to this
boss-
bill.
did your boss
Sign
Donald
on
Trump-
to the bill.
Is your boss Donald Trump behind
H-
it?
I think he's calling them out because no matter what Republicans do, even if Republicans were to come out and say, okay, fine, we'll sign up. See, like Democrats, they insist on 1.5 trillion because it's such an absurdly insane number. They know that it's impossible for Republicans to say yes. But even if Republicans were to say yes, I think still the Democrats, like almost they would have to call their bluff. It would not be good on Republicans politically to do that because it would include funding for illegal immigrants on Medicaid. I'm just saying that if Republicans came out and said, okay, fine, we'll give you the 1.5 trillion. Let's get the government open again. I bet if you call them on their bluff, Democrats would still say no. Because this is their absolute agenda right now is to keep it closed, probably for months, to just cause just a financial turmoil, even though the stock market looks like it's doing perfectly fine, though.
Star 5145. Why don't you get on it?
Mike, is your boss Donald Trump behind that?
Why
yet?
won't you get on it?
Because you don't work for the American people.
Oh, I do. I work
don't
for,
work for
the
the
people
people
of
of
New
the
York.
17th
I work for the
district.
people of my district.
Is that why you? Is that
I'm
why
here.
You got 140.
And by the way, I voted for a clean CR to keep the government open and
Mike,
funded.
you're-
You voted to shut it
You're
down.
embarrassing yourself right
Yeah, leader, with all due
Well, as we
respect,
would say
you're the
back in
one.
Why are you playing yourself?
You're the one
Why are you
who
playing
actually
yourself with
voted
these
to shut
theatrics?
the government down.
now. Actually,
He did.
No,
Say
that's
it.
not true.
It's sad. You voted to shut the government
You did.
down.
Do Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the President?
Right, and
correct?
you're-
Oh, there's the bullshit talking points. Yeah, well, we voted to pass a bill on spending. You voted no. That means the government shuts down. If you don't have funding for it, the government shuts
You
down.
know
Is
that
that
you
right?
need 60 votes in the Senate,
Is
right?
that right? No.
Do you need 60 votes
Exactly.
in the Senate?
You need 60 votes in the Senate. And they didn't have 60 votes in the Senate. Ergo, the Democrats shut down the
How many votes
government.
needed to pass your one big ugly bill?
Reconciliation, which you
Was
did with
That
the
bill got
IRA.
passed, dude.
Boy, that
That's
really
old news.
Reduced inflation.
Are you
did
trying
a
to
great job
elevate
there.
yourself because you're afraid
I'm not
you're
trying to
about lose
elevate myself.
re-election?
No, I'm not going to lose
ask you a
re-election.
question.
You spent $42 million last cycle. You didn't do that great.
Why
Uh-oh.
aren't you running for governor right now?
Because I actually enjoy this job, and I'm here to do
You
it. And
enjoy-
by the way,
you enjoy-
you
you
could
enjoy
actually
embarrassing
pass.
yourself?
You could actually pass
You enjoy being a lackey
a
for
subsidy
Donald
right
Trump?
now
Is that
to
right?
ensure that people don't have health care premiums going up. Why won't you support this one-year bill?
Let me ask you a question.
Tom Swazi's on it. Jared Golden.
Let me ask you a question.
Marie
Let me ask you a question.
Perez.
Let me ask
Are
you a
they
question.
wrong?
Your
Don
other-
Davis?
your other
Are they
boss-
wrong?
Your other boss, Mike Johnson, I challenged him to a debate
Yeah.
on the floor. Did he send you?
No.
This
I'm
dude looks
here
like he
on
hates
my
his
behalf
job.
of my
He's like, oh my
constituents,
God.
because you shut the government down, and my constituents are suffering
can we
as
go
a
now?
result of your ridiculous ploy.
If
Because
you-
you're so afraid of Zohran Mandami. By the way, when are you endorsing him?
By the way,
do you endorse him for mayor?
First of all, are you?
You can
Good
endorse
question.
him for mayor?
Probably.
You're a complete and total embarrassment right now.
Oh, Why is that? Because you don't want to answer the question?
Is this supposed to be a video?
Because you don't want to pass this bill for healthcare?
You don't want to answer the question? Do you support Zoran? By the way, did you see his statement yesterday?
Listen.
An embarrassment on October 7th blaming the Jews? You support that?
Whoa, uh-oh.
Should he be the Democratic
No,
nominee?
he doesn't know about that.
First of all, I don't answer to you. You
Should
don't
he be
even
the Democratic
answer to
mayor?
yourself.
Should he be the
You don't
Democratic
even-
nominee
I'll
for
answer
mayor?
whatever questions I need to answer about
Okay,
the
so
mayor's
you think
race,
his
about
statement
the Ameri-
yesterday was okay?
First of all,
All right. That's sad.
First of all,
It's unfortunate.
don't come with this phony
These are bills.
bill. No.
These
no,
are
no.
bills. They're not
Phony?
It's
They're
not
real
a bill
bills.
that Republicans are even.
All right. Whatever, going back and forth. That's entertainment. So yeah, so the extending enhanced ACA credit. So it sounds like he's just directly calling them out on their bullshit. That, okay, well, here's a bill. Why don't you sign this? This is going to extend the credits that you want extended, the Affordable Care Act, which is exactly what they keep saying that Republicans are refusing to sign. Republicans refuse to extend the ACA tax credits. And he's like, here's a bill right here. I've got it drafted up. I'm absolutely on board with it. I want you to sign it with me, and it'll extend the credits by an entire year. So we can hammer it out over the next year. But in the meantime, you'll get those ACA credits, and then you won't see the millions of people skyrocketing their insurance premiums and all that shit. So I think at least that's what I got out of it. I got out of it like in the way that he's calling them out on his bullshit, that they have no intention on extending it, nor do they give a shit. They don't give a shit about healthcare. They don't. I mean, they passed Obamacare, for crying out loud. All right, Rep. Steve Womack. 6 chances and Senate Democrats continue to block government funding while hardworking Americans pay the price, from Daily Caller. And I'll take a quick look here. And we'll start here. I'll make it a little bit larger in case you're watching this through a smartphone. Anyway, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and a majority of Senate Democrats voted on Wednesday afternoon to keep the government shuttered despite mounting consequences from the prolonged funding lapse. Democrats rejected a bipartisan funding measure that would restore government operations for the 6th time. The same trio of Democratic senators, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, and independent Maine Senator Angus King, who caucuses with the Democrats, broke ranks to join Republicans in voting yes on the House-passed spending bill. And the vote tally has remained virtually unchanged since the opening day of the shutdown. Most Senate Democrats remain dug in against reopening the government despite previously railing against shutdowns during prior funding fights. Schumer told reporters on Wednesday that Democrats were winning the shutdown battle despite some Americans facing financial stress and disrupted access to federal programs due to the funding lapse. Look, this is going to it's going to benefit, or it's going to be more detrimental to Democrats a lot more than Republicans. I would go as far as to say that there's probably a lot more Democrats who are on government assistance than there are Republicans. Anyway, so, quote, in almost every poll we've seen, they blame Trump and the Republicans double digits more than they blame the Democrats, Schumer said. You put all that together, they're sort of squirming. The 8-day shutdown has disrupted air travel, and businesses that rely on federal contracts are beginning to lay off staff. Active duty service members and Border Patrol agents, among other federal employees, are also temporarily reporting to work without pay. The government shutdown will cost the U.S. economy $15 billion in losses per week, according to analysis released by the White House. And let's see, Democrats are holding the American people hostage to extract far-left concessions. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, the second-ranking Senate Republican, said on Wednesday, they're telling our service members their paychecks are negotiable. They're telling small businesses their dreams are collateral damage in a partisan fight. They're telling mothers with young children their WIC benefits are leverage for far-left demands. And anyway, it goes on a little bit after that. So that's the gist of it. And I'll go ahead and move on to the next thing. So from House Committee on Agriculture, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi can't even explain what's wrong with passing a clean CR.
I
CNN.
understand what you're saying about where the differences are, and they are very big. They are voting yes on what we say here in Washington, a clean CR, a bill to keep the government running for 7 weeks, and Democrats are voting no, and for the reasons you just said. So how are they shutting down the government?
First of all, it isn't a clean CR.
Okay.
So let's not stipulate to that. It's not a clean CR.
What do they have in it?
Going into that. The point is.
All right, whatever. I really would have liked to have seen more of that. Of course, she's not going to answer that. Of course, she's not going to admit that at all. But I'm honestly kind of shocked that CNN actually took that stance, because she is 100% correct. Nothing she said was wrong there. All right, Rep. Vern Buchanan. 2 weeks ago, House GOP passed a clean CR to keep the government open. 216 Republicans and even 1 Democrat voted to fund the government. The only thing standing in the way is Senate Democrats. It's time for them to stop the games and vote to reopen the government. So there's an image of the House Republicans who voted for the nonpartisan clean CR to keep the government open. 216 Republicans, 1 Democrat voted to keep the government funded. So there you go. There you have it. It's all on the Democrats. GOP, watch. This is 5 minutes of Democrats fighting for taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. So in case you're wondering, if you're not sure whether if Democrats are actually trying to give your tax money to illegal immigrants for their health care while you have to pay full price for yours, well, let's take a look at this and let's see what they ended up really saying.
Party saying that illegal immigrants should get access to the health insurance marketplace.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide
you remember this?
for undocumented immigrants.
During campaign season? What was this, 2020?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Illegal immigrants. Sure. So, yes, I'm never going to be in favor of a policy that denies people access to public health, public safety, or public education based on their immigrant status.
That all people in this country have the right to health care.
Would you include the 11 million undocumented immigrants in that?
Absolutely.
His first order of business, expanding state-run health care, including
it's all
full
about the
coverage
voters.
to 138,000.
Because first they get health care, then they get full government benefits, and then they get the right to vote.
Illegal immigrants.
So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety,
your tax dollars, ladies and gentlemen.
Education, or public health.
She's taking your tax dollars,
they would be covered,
giving them to people who are not even supposed to be here.
Passed a bill that would offer Medicaid to undocumented seniors. Do you expect to
and you wonder why our health care is hyperinflated?
Expanding it just beyond seniors?
I will sign that bill. I think it's important.
I did universal health care when I was mayor, fully implemented, regardless of pre-existing condition, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. San Francisco is the only universal health care plan for all undocumented residents in America. I'm very proud of that.
On undocumented health care,
which is reimbursed by the federal government.
It's a human right. I think it makes
your tax money.
Sense.
We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
When we talk about Medicare for all, ALL, it means all. It means every man, woman, and child in this country, including the undocumented.
Man, they're just saying it out loud.
Out in my bill.
Very brazen with it.
I don't want it to be.
We want to give your tax money to illegal immigrants.
Would they have access?
Yes.
To health insurance?
Yes.
Health insurance for undocumented immigrants is a deal breaker for you.
That is one of the pillars of the plan as I see it.
Health care is a human right.
They might have chopped that one up.
Including, by the way, the undocumented in this country.
Yeah, see, when I hear them say including undocumented, there you go. There's the bullseye right there. The Pete Buttigieg thing, I didn't hear him specifically say to undocumented citizens.
Accusations tonight against an Illinois program that provides health care for undocumented migrants.
People need to get health care. I am in favor of universal health care. However that comes together.
Or will this plan also include undocumented people?
And the answer is absolutely, of course.
You, as several of your fellow competitors for the Democratic nomination, support government-funded health care for undocumented immigrants.
This is not a progressive decision. It's a common sense thing.
Undocumented people should have the opportunity to buy into the plan.
The proposal
oh, there you go. Bullseye.
Introduced includes making sure that undocumented people are also covered.
You should be able to buy into it, in my view.
Should undocumented immigrants also be able to get subsidized health care?
They should have access to health care. They should have access to what everybody else has access to.
And they don't even give a reason why. Why? Why do they deserve our tax dollars? The reason why is so they can just virtue signal to the illegal immigrants and say, look what we did for you. Look, we gave you free health care. So you got to vote for us. If you vote for us, we won't only give you free health care, but we'll give you all kinds of free shit.
To once again lead on health care and provide a pathway and a framework for 1.1 million undocumented residents in the state of California to avail themselves to high quality, comprehensive Medi-Cal care.
Well, is that the same thing with you? Do you believe people come here?
Isn't Medi-Cal, isn't that extremely in debt?
Are not citizens.
Like $100 billion or something.
food, healthcare, housing.
Depending on which law you're referring to, in certain circumstances, we do provide these services.
Support of a Medicare
Yep, of course they do.
Single-payer system. And that means that everybody in the country has health care, including the undocumented.
Yeah, we get it. We
Medicare
get it.
for
Bernie
all,
Sanders is,
As
we get
I
it.
put this together, covers everyone, regardless of immigration status.
Bullseye.
And that's it.
We have universal health care regardless of immigration status that we expanded last year up to the age of 26. And clearly, as you know from my budget, we had a desire to do even more.
If it's okay, Judy, and deal
Yeah, because
with
California's
the
got
homeless
plenty of
and
money for that
not homeless,
in their
undocumented,
tax
pardon me.
dollar coffers.
But nobody gets turned away in this state.
Over the age of 65, we'll pick up that tab regardless of your status. So we're going to take care of them as well. So I believe in this.
And we do ourselves no favors by having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care.
I have a different bill.
Too bad. Go
called
back
the
to their
HEAL
own
Act
country.
That is specifically around
They paid into their health care in their own
undocumented
country.
folks.
I think that
How about I go to their country and I get health care? Oh, no, you're not allowed to do that.
need of health care, regardless of whether they're documented or undocumented.
Would you consider including the 11 million undocumented immigrants?
Once we're in balance, I think that would be the next step.
Yeah, but when it comes to everyday Americans, they don't give a flying fuck about you. They just want the illegal immigrants to get it so then they can start voting Democrat. Once they give them, a blanket citizenship. All right, Senator Jim Banks. Democrats are keeping the government shut down so they can grandstand at their No Kings rally on October 18th. Eric Swallowswell hawking merch while our troops worry about getting paid. It's disgraceful.
No Kings rally is just a couple weeks away. I've partnered with No Kings here. Check out our merch, and I'll see you at the rally.
Now, of course, when this backfires, when there's tons of violence and they're throwing bricks at cops and they're throwing Molotov cocktails and they're smashing stores and looting and all that shit, which is probably going to be an element of it for sure. Of course, the media, all the red lights are going to turn off. Oh, no, it's mostly peaceful down here. It's all mostly peaceful. Scott Desjardins, Democratic leadership voted 13 times for the same clean CR under the Biden administration. House GOP voted to keep the government open. Watch CNN called Chuck Schumer out on his shutdown hypocrisy. And CNN, they got it for the win
this is
again.
the type of thing you've said about shutdowns in the past. Let's listen.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down? I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation,
Yeah, you are
of
an
paralysis. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage again. While the
And you
CR
are.
bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Therefore, I will
We're not
vote
going to hear
keep
his
the
response,
government
are we?
open and not shut it down.
That was you 3 times. You.
All right, whatever. That's so annoying when they do that. They don't play. And I get that they're not gonna show the entire 5-minute interview, but at least get his reaction from it. All right, Deputy Secretary Sonderling, a big piece of U.S. DOL, Department of Labor, Make America Skilled Again effort is ensuring our workforce is prepared with the AI skills needed to thrive in the modern economy. The Democrat shutdown pauses the progress we've made in this critical area, putting our workers last. And this is from Secretary of Labor Lori Chavez de Raymer. USDLL's efforts to register new apprentices and make America skilled again are important to securing our economic dominance. The Democrat shutdown must end.
One of the things that we've been focused on is registering apprenticeships. That was an executive order by the president. 1 million active apprentices across this country. We had registered over 220,000 since the president took office. And now we've had to come to a stop in registering those apprenticeships with not only the public sector, but the private sector as well. And that's been disappointing to want to get to that 1 million active apprentices for the skilled workforce.
Yeah, that sucks. And I guess when it reopens, we'll pick back up on that effort. Senator Katie Boyd Britt. Senator Schumer's only concern right now is being a headliner on October 18th for the No Kings protest and appealing to his radical base. He's made it clear he's not the American people. Nope.
We see Chuck Schumer putting the politics of his reelect and trying to figure out if he can make it until, October 18th, the No Kings protest here in Washington, D.C., so that he can stand on the stage with those individuals and rally the left wing of his party and hopefully keep his job. He's putting that above the American people. And look, they're going to see through it. We've been working diligently to enact President Trump's agenda. We have had tremendous success because of President Trump's leadership. And at the end of the day, they're attempting to thwart that. But we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep making a difference for the very people who elected us to be here on November 5th.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens during this No Kings protest, because the criminal element in Washington, D.C. has been suppressed since Trump's feds have been patrolling the streets. And this is their opportunity to go out and cause shit again, because they're going to have a huge crowd of people. You think they're not going to get into any funny business? I'm sure they will, because they always do. Every time there's a big protest in D.C. from the Democrats, shit usually gets pretty crazy. Anyway, Rep. Marionette Miller Meeks, MD. Dems have now voted 6 times to keep the government shut down. 6 times they've chosen $1.5 trillion in new spending in taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants over paychecks for our troops, services for hardworking American families. This comes from The Hill. And start here. Senate, well, maybe start here. All right. Senate Democrats on Wednesday blocked a bill to end the government shutdown for a 6th time in the funding lapse. Oh my God. Come on, The Hill. Enters its 2nd week with little headway made toward a resolution. Senators voted 54-45 on the GOP's clean stopgap spending package that would fund the government through late November. It needed 60 votes to advance. And yeah, I think the shutdown's going to go on past the end of November. The only question that I have as far as that is, if they don't pass any funding at the end of November, is that going to shut down more areas of the government, or is it just going to just continue extending the same partial shutdown we're dealing with? Senators Catherine Cortez Masto, Angus King, and John Fetterman voted with Republicans, but for a 5th time, no other members of the Democratic caucus joined them. And it's like King on Wednesday said he would keep voting for the GOP stopgap bill out of fear for the power that the White House could exert in a shutdown. The power that the president and OMB and Vaught and Miller are exercising under the shutdown is a real threat to our country, so I'm going to continue to try to end the shutdown. Well, that's interesting. I'd like very much to get this ACA thing resolved, he added, referring to Democrats' demand to extend expiring Affordable Care Act premium subsidies. I think that's important. I think it can be. I think it should be. Republicans should step up and help us do that. But in the end, we got to get this shutdown over, because I think the worst is yet to come. Yeah, for sure. Democrats have continued to press for talks to extend healthcare subsidies past the year-end deadline, but Republicans have rebuffed them, saying that those conversations can only take place when the government reopens. Doesn't sound like from Hakeem Jeffries. Sounds like he has no interest whatsoever in doing so, at least based on that exchange that we just saw. All right. Moving next to House Republicans. A reminder, at Rep. Jeffries, you voted to shut down the government and cut rural health care, and we didn't. Let's get that straight. And Hakeem Jeffries says that airports are experiencing massive staffing shortages because of the Trump shutdown. How dare he? House Republicans remain on vacation. Get back to work so we can reopen the government. And yeah, I mean, they're not on vacation. I mean, it's pretty obvious, at least from the Senate hearing that they held yesterday with Pam Bondi. I think there were Republicans there, weren't there? It's day 8 of the Democrat shutdown. Look, more Republicans. They're not on vacation. In New York, air travelers are facing safety delays. Food banks in Georgia and Colorado are bracing for higher demand. Hospitals in New Jersey are putting some care on hold. Democrats in each of those states and many other examples we could list have voted 5 times to keep the government closed. Real Americans are paying the price, and it's getting worse by the hour.
Today, we're going to talk about some of the consequences of that shutdown and what it means to real people around this country, real Americans experiencing the devastating cost of their political antics here. And I'm going to read you some sample quotes and headlines that we just collected yesterday from around the country. Here's a headline from The Hill. GOP leaders point to Capitol Police missed paychecks as shutdown drags on. So today, the U.S. Capitol Police officers are going to come to work to bravely protect U.S. government officials and staff in these dangerous times. And they're going to do that without pay. Many Democrats in this chamber, by the way, I want to note, are going to receive paychecks this month.
The Democrats are the party of slavery.
Women of the U.S. Capitol Police who are
Kind
protecting
of makes
them
sense.
will not.
Working
Here's
without
another
pay
headline
and so
from the
on
New
and so
York
forth.
Post. Aviation groups warn a government shutdown will delay aircraft safety inspections, maintenance work on critical equipment. While air traffic controllers are going to continue to serve in their posts, thankfully, critical safety inspections are going to stop, increasing risk for air travelers. That affects everybody. Here's another headline from Georgia, local media in Georgia. Central Georgia food banks prepare for surge of new clients during the government shutdown. It's a sad headline. Remember, Georgia's
Most
two
of them vote
Democrat
Democrat.
senators,
I almost
Warnock
guarantee
and
it.
Ossoff, have now voted
People on
5
government benefits.
times to keep the
A lot
government
more
closed
Democrats
down.
than
5
Republicans.
times so far. I suspect they may continue, and they're hurting
The
real people
backfiring.
instead of Georgia. Here's one from New Hampshire local media. National parks caught in the crosshairs of government shutdown. Let me point out that both senators from New Hampshire, Senators Shaheen and Hassan, have repeatedly voted to keep the government closed, and New Hampshire's national park sites closed by extension. How about New Jersey? Here's a headline yesterday. Hospital at-home telehealth programs on hold amid government shutdown. You got 2 Democrat senators in New Jersey, Andy Kim and Cory Booker, and they have repeatedly voted against funding these programs.
Yeah, they're not
which
taking
New
any phone
Jerseyans
calls.
Rely upon daily. Here's one from Michigan. Michigan nonprofit leaders said a shutdown would be at best disruptive and at worst potentially devastating for local communities. There are 2 Democrat senators in Michigan, Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, and they have voted now 5 times to enable this devastation upon their communities. One more, I could do this all day. Here's one more from CBS News. Government shutdown fears have Colorado food banks bracing for potential new visitors. You guessed it. 2 Democrat senators from Colorado, Michael
Yep,
Bennet,
as they
John
keep
Hickenlooper,
gaslighting their
they keep
constituency,
voting over
saying
and
it's
over
Trump's
to keep
shutdown,
the
it's not
government
my
closed.
shutdown.
Democrats claim they want to negotiate, but that is already happening in a bipartisan, bicameral fashion.
Yeah, and it doesn't take more than like 30 seconds of research to realize that, no, it ain't the Republicans that shut it down. It's the Republicans who voted to keep it open. They voted yes on the CR bill, which would fund the government. Democrats voted no. Anyway, Rep. Ted Lieu, here's the difference. Democrats have been showing up to work. Republicans have been on vacation. And I think yours truly, literally not happening. Lousy gaslighting. And shame on you. You're going to have to pay at the polls for what you're doing to Americans. Shame, shame. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, the people that are not getting benefits from the government right now, I bet they're overwhelmingly Democrat voters. So I'm sure that's not going to help them out very much. Although, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think they really have nothing else left to play. I think they're just going to jump on anything they possibly can and just blame Republicans no matter what they do, no matter what the damage is. Mike Lee, Obamacare poisoned our healthcare system. Absolutely. Naturally, Democrats think what we need is even more poison. Just say no. And Buck Sexton, some people are finally figuring out that Democrats made healthcare far worse and more expensive with Obamacare. Yeah. Especially if you're old enough to have had health insurance before Obamacare kicked in. You remember, compared to now, health insurance back then was just amazing. It was amazing insurance back then compared to now. Of course they did. Everything they touch is a disaster that they must lie about endlessly. Why would healthcare be different? It's not.